Greetings, chess friends. Today, we're talking about one of the greatest American grandmasters ever. Sammy Reshevsky, from a young age, was a child prodigy and a sort of celebrity in the world of chess before that was a thing. He was here shown on a movie set with even Charlie Chaplin watching. He played other celebrities and statesmen simuls at a young age. One of the greatest players, 8 times the U.S. champion, and a bitter rival of Bobby Fischer. Let's see one of Reshevsky's greatest games. Quite an interesting life, from a young man all the way to an old age, and his chess career, some 60 years. So really interesting here, the Catalan. I would put Sammy Reshevsky on the Mount Rushmore of American chess players, one of the all-time greatest. 2 players you cannot leave off that list, Bobby and Morphy. And I would put Reshevsky right there after those two. Those two are just in a class by themselves. Morphy and Fischer I'm talking about. But wow, Reshevsky right there. And maybe one of the modern day players. I'll let you choose. So let's jump into this game, which is, like I said, a triumph of chess strategy. And I think right here is where Black starts to go wrong. Pretty modern day opening. Looks like b6 is the choice here, perhaps even trading bishop takes d2. But his opponent here, tradesman, played knight e4. Knight e4 is where things start to go wrong. Not developing your pieces, moving the knight for the second time, and getting, again, a little behind schedule here. When you capture, that knight made 3 moves. 1, 2, 3, and now it's gone. Almost wasted. You could have developed the other pieces instead. So timing is everything here. c6, and after e4, a good central move. White already has a comfortable position, a nice space in the center. Bishop takes, and knight takes. So when we see this game unfold as the masterpiece that it is, it doesn't just start randomly. The foundation of our great position and advantage is already happening here before the 10th move. So a nice moment here. Perhaps e5 would have been a good try, freeing the bishop so it can play, and just kind of fighting for the center in general. More dynamic than knight d7. But again, behind schedule, you've got to try to develop. c5 is a really nice move, and this puts a real clamp on the d6 square, and our knight is going to live there for the majority of this game. e5, but now it's too late. We capture, and after rook e1, knight lands on d6. A spectacular outpost, a real advantage deep in the enemy territory. If you think about chess as a military strategy type game, you have a real infiltration. You've snuck into the enemy territory, and you're not going anywhere. You're able to maintain this. Of course, the pawn is the most sturdy defender. So white is clearly winning here. But what happens is just an absolute calamity for black after f4. I love this move, and really accentuating this knight, which is horribly placed. Bishop d7 doesn't recognize the strategic danger black is in. Again, this game, black is a strong player. This is from the 1938 U.S. Championship. And Reshevsky, this was his second of 8 U.S. championships, the all-time record, tied with none other than Bobby Fischer. So 8 U.S. championships. I think Hikaru may be at 5 right now. Fabiano, 2 or 3. So you get the idea that 8 number is very, very respected. Let's say incredible. Walter Brown, I understand, has 6 U.S. championships. Quite a big number. So anyway, a little stroll down memory lane. Rook d7. And I absolutely love the rooks to the 7th rank. When this knight gets forced to the corner, there's just no extracting it. And I'm reminded of an old saying that when you have one bad piece, you have a bad position. Black is really suffering here, feeling like they are down a piece. Okay, b6, trying to undermine. Of course, don't take that pawn. They will take our knight. But b4, keeping that nice and sturdy. It was guarded anyway because we recapture here with the queen. Might be a slight surprise, but both are good. Rook a d8 and b5, taking advantage of the pin. Black is truly feeling handcuffed here as this knight can't make a move safely. The rook can't move here. The knight would capture it. The bishop can't move as it's pinned. This is just a really, really difficult situation. We have a great knight, great rook, space advantage, right? These pawns are controlling key squares. And don't forget about this bishop, which is, again, playing a nice role on the diagonal. So white's pieces are all better placed than their counterparts. Here, a nice moment. And again, shows you that black is a strong player. Had white just taken this apparently free pawn, black is right back in this game after bishop just takes it. Notice now the knight is getting captured or chased away here. So, for example, queen takes, maybe rook takes, and all of a sudden the knight is still horribly placed, but material equal, and at least black is fighting back. So, very interesting. That was a landmine that Reshevsky avoided, a4. So even in the conversion of a good position, there are going to be those little landmines and speed bumps you need to adjust for or be alert to like that. So don't just take everything that's free. C takes b5, A takes b5. Now all of a sudden this rook, which has not made a move, is a great piece. So the quality of the pieces here, and after bishop c8, we can pause for a moment and talk about that quality of the pieces. Just look at the black army, all really just limited in their scope, in their vision that they can see, and especially this knight. The corner square is the worst place for a knight. Rook c7, that indirectly guards the knight, which was under attack. Queen b6, interesting. Do we want to trade? A question for you. Would you trade here? Well, I think a lot of strong chess players, including Reshevsky, would trade here. Again, it's as if we're up in material. And we are about to be literally up in material when we collect his b6 pawn. But because of this knight in the corner, remember, if you have one bad piece, you have a bad position. Black has a bad position. How does it feel? Your turn with black. Very cramped, very difficult. Okay, g6, do we want to capture this? Do we want to let this knight re-enter the game? Of course not. Keeping the status quo, keeping the pawns protected. And again, h5. And again, h3. Not allowing that to happen. King g7, king f2, an indication that we're in the end game when the end is near. Bishop d7, and finally that pawn gets collected. Do want to point out here, white is up a pawn, but the advantage has been clear for many moves. In other words, you don't need to be ahead in material to be winning. Rook b8, trying to exchange rooks, but a very nice in-between move here. Again, looking at more options. f6. A lot of players might just trade or not know what to do here, but f6 is a wonderful detail. The king captures this. You're running into a double check. Knight e8. What a tactic. Knight e8 is double check, and the king has to move, and then rook takes rook. We're losing the knight, but really not such a big deal. We just want a rook, and of course this knight still buried alive. f6, black played king h6, and a brilliant move coming here, king g3. This move, believe it or not, is threatening checkmate. Appears like the rook is completely hanging, but if we were to capture it, there would follow rook h1. The only legal move is king g5, and a difficult move to see, knight backwards to e4, is checkmate. That guards the pawn, and our king was needed here to guard these key squares. So really nice one. Of course, here, king g3, black did not take the free rook and get checkmated, but instead ran backwards with their king. Another capture here. We are a pawn ahead. Capture and g5. This construction here absolutely cements this knight into the corner. And a sad, sad end to his game. We're here on move 36. And remember, that knight arrived there on move 18. So that is not fun, and we're not done. Rook b6. If we were to move the knight, we would lose this key pawn. Here, rook a6. A nice detail. Again, more trades, the better. Rook b8. Bishop c6, again, more trades, the better. And rook a8, again, more trades, the better. We're literally up a pawn, and it's a really good one. This pawn is passed. And, of course, as we've said all game, this knight is horrendous. In other words, it's not a fair fight. we have bishop and knight versus a lone bishop. And really, the king is also pretty far from the action. So this one's just about over. B6, bishop a6. What are you to do? And he doesn't even push the pawn and give it away. He wants the queen and just finishing this game. Bishop b7. Here, black resigned. Of course, any trade, it's going to be an easy promotion. If you move the bishop away, we're going to play a move like bishop c6 and just eventually force this bishop off the diagonal, maybe like this. Now there must be an exchange, and the pawn will just go once the coast is clear. So really amazing from Sammy Reshevsky. Again, on my Mount Rushmore of American chess players, the 8-time U.S. champion and bitter rival of Bobby Fischer. I want to end this video with a quote from Reshevsky about himself. And it's said with a bit of sarcasm, I think. But he said, "I am essentially a positional player. Although I conduct an assault with precision and vigor when the opportunity arises, my style is somewhere between that of Tal and Petrosian." So opposite ends of the spectrum, of course. He says, "It is neither over-aggressive nor too passive. My strength consists of a fighting spirit, a great desire to win, stubborn defense whenever in trouble, and I rarely become discouraged in an inferior situation, and I fear no one." I like that. A toughness to him, you can tell, and always, I think, known for time trouble. He got into trouble, but was able to navigate that well. So interesting character. If you hadn't heard of Reshevsky before this, I highly recommend going through some of his games, even some of the battles with Fischer, of course, who showed up on the scene and just started to dominate from a young age. The two were very, very strong, and Fischer respected Reshevsky greatly. So really very, very strong player and one you can learn a lot from. Hope everyone enjoyed this one, and keep your knights out of the corner. See you next time.